the question within 2 minutes, as you've been doing, and by the way, you've done a really fine job of that. And you can either have one of you answer it, or you can both contribute, but let's try and state it in that 2 minutes. And our first question comes from Ashley Anderson. Many students feel there is a silent barrier that prevents SGA from connecting with the student body. What are your plans to eliminate the barrier? And we'll begin on this side.
Well, first of all, like I had said, you have to get the communication between the student organizations and the presidents and the student body. I keep saying student organizations because I feel those are the leaders on campus, the people who are involved with the organizations. Get that communication. And we don't want to be seen as elitists, because we definitely aren't. We're students just like everyone else, and that's how I want it to be.
No, I completely agree with Braden. I think as long as there's communication, and as long as people aren't afraid to come to us, as long as we're there, we're here to say, we want to hear what you have to say. I think that helps the communication a lot, because I think a lot of the times we're just not very approachable.
Kyle and Alex, again, the question was, many students feel there's a silent barrier that prevents SGA from connecting with the student body. What are your plans to eliminate that barrier?
I'm going to backtrack for just a second on that question. Over the past 2 years, as me being vice president with my president, Tyler Thompson, we've always had an open door policy, so that approachability aspect has always been there. But we haven't necessarily done an adequate job of advertising that, of making students aware that they can just come in and talk to us at any time, and there will be no reason why that will change in the next year. And so what I would say to that is that one of the things that we will do and ensure that students are aware of our open door policy and how approachable we are is, once again, the whole get informed aspect of our campaign, because that will really be pivotal to erasing that barrier.
And that silent barrier will really be handled, I guess, through that, not just the all-school email, or not just that newsletter, but the all-school email that we're going to incorporate into all the student handbooks and stuff like that. That will just, I think, really knock down the barrier for between the students and the Senate, and us going to outreaching to organizations is going to help break down the barrier. But I think that email alone is just going to do wonders to make sure that we are available at all times to address any sort of concerns or questions that students have on campus, and maybe even about Topeka. So.
All right, thank you, and we'll start over here with this next question. I understand that our Greek organizations are well represented here tonight, so this question is probably especially appropriate. It comes from Andy Wilkinson Rodriguez. What are you going to do to improve Greek life at Fort Hays State?
One of the interesting things about Greek life at universities is that that's where people begin to learn their own individual leadership skills and life applicable skills, whether it's picking out an engagement ring for a fiance or how to file your tax return and so on and so forth. And I believe that if SGA next year can work effectively with Greek life, we can be able to increase the awareness of these different life skills, as well as increasing awareness and spreading the word about SGA and what's going on with inside the organization.
And one thing we can help do is work together with the Greek organizations to, advocate what they actually want. And I think, us going to talk to them, like I stated, I guess it's kind of like a broken record. Us going to talk to them is going to help us understand what they actually want from us as vice president and president. And I think that us going to talk to them is really going to address a lot of issues.
Carolyn and Braden, what are you going to do to improve Greek life at Fort Hays State?
Being a member of a Greek organization, I know how hard it is retention's a problem. I think sometimes recruitment can be a problem as well. So I think we partner with we help support the Greek organizations, because there's only so much that they can do. As a Greek member, I know it's hard to go out and recruit people and get people interested, but there's only so much you can do after a certain point. So I think because the Greek system is a relatively large portion of our campus, there are a lot of Greek members on this campus, and I think as long as there are other organizations supporting them and not just the Greek life itself, I think as long there are other organizations that are there to support them, these potential these potential members might sit back and they might think, okay, maybe this isn't such a bad thing after all. Maybe it's something that I might actually want to look into. Just getting the word out, helping the Greek organizations get their voice, heard.
And we'll start over here. Our next question comes from Brett Whitaker. Fort Hays State has 3 large groups of students, on campus, virtual, and international. Does the SGA represent all 3 of these, and if so, how? If not, should they?
Well, SGA represents the on-campus students, and that's nothing. There's a problem with student affairs and the way the funding is set up. So the virtual is a touchy issue, and SGA has to wait to hear what the administration says. Once student affairs gives virtual students the same payment plans and rights to be represented by SGA, we can take on that. But I think that international students are really underrepresented in SGA. And being from TMP, boarding school, I'm really familiar with international students and how that works. On our student government in high school, we had an actual council for international students, because I personally traveled to China this summer and I see exactly what they're going through. It's not easy to go out to a foreign country and just do what you want or do what you think is right. It's much more difficult with the language and cultural barrier. So I think if SGA maybe encouraged communication between the international students, and I think maybe even open a couple seats specifically for the international students, because that's their chance to have a voice. And that's what we did in my high school, and it worked perfectly. And these students that normally wouldn't talk or wouldn't step up became leaders at the school, and it's really successful. So I think if we did something like that, the international students could have their voices heard as well.
I'm sure you have the gist of the question, but it's fairly lengthy, so let me repeat it for you. Fort Hays State has 3 large groups of students, on campus, virtual, and international. Does the SGA represent all 3? And if so, how? And if not, should it?
Trying to find an easy way to say this. First off, with on-campus students, currently in order to be eligible to participate in SGA and run as a senator, you have to be enrolled in at least one on-campus class, whether it be 1 hour or 3 hours. You can be in rest virtual classes, but you have to be enrolled in at least one on-campus class. Virtual students are not represented physically at this point on Senate, but Tyler and I over the last 2 years have been working tirelessly with virtual students with different kinds of communication problems and logistical errors that come from what is a virtual college. So even though they haven't had the direct representation, Tyler and I have both stood strongly as student advocates for virtual students, whether it be somebody in Kansas or somebody in Georgia who's taking online classes. And international students over the past 3 years, we have had a number of them on Senate, and they have been very constructive in their contributions. So I would say that international students, although maybe at this point are somewhat underrepresented, they do have opportunities for representation, and there are students who have taken up the initiative in the past and stepped up to the plate.
International students are becoming a large part of our campus. Their enrollment numbers are increasing actually faster than our on-campus numbers. And so that's really gonna influence us in the future. Especially 5-10 years down the road, we might be even a larger international population of students than we are now. And Hammond's plans actually, he's got a lot of international students from China and those areas. But his next step is the Saudi Arabia and Turkey and those areas. So we're going to see a lot more of that kind of demographic on campus, and I think we need to work more actually to bridge the gap between our type of students, and I think that's something we need to work on next year, and I look forward to working with that.
All right. And this next paper is not signed.